We all know how to read a book. You just open the cover and you start reading page by page until you get to the end. So why do we need help with knowing how to read the Bible? Well, simply because, despite what we might think, the Bible isn't actually a book. Now check out our video on what is the Bible to find out more about that. We normally start reading something at the beginning. So where is the beginning of the Bible? Genesis is the first book we come to, but the Bible actually begins with Matthew and the Gospels. The Bible begins with Jesus. If it wasn't for Jesus, the Bible wouldn't exist. We have it because people wrote about who Jesus is and what he did. They wanted to capture the significant events, passing them on to future generations. As the church was formed and it began to spread around the world, people like Paul wrote letters of instruction, challenge, and encouragement to churches, helping them to keep focused on Jesus and obediently following him. Now, much later, these writings were pulled together to form what we now refer to as the New Testament. They were collated together with the ancient Jewish writings, which we think had already been collated by the time of Jesus, which forms the Old Testament. Everything in the Bible is there because of Jesus. It flows from him or it points towards him. So if you want to get started with reading the Bible, start at the beginning. Start with Jesus. Start with the Gospels. Now, there are two different ways in which we should read the Bible. Both are crucial if we want to follow Jesus and discover more of who he is and what it means for us to follow him. Let's call the first one Bible study. Now, please don't be put off by that word study. This isn't about revising for an exam or anything like that. The Bible is a collection of ancient writings written by different people in different contexts, covering different themes. It's important to have a good overview of what the Bible actually says and understand what each bit is saying and doing. So read through it, not from cover to cover, but read it book by book. Start with the Gospels, perhaps Mark because it's the shortest, and read it. Perhaps read a couple of chapters each time until you've finished, then move on to the next book. When you do this, you're better able to grasp the specific book or the letter and what it's all about. The more of the Bible you read, the better equipped you are to have this overview of what the Bible actually says, what the major themes are that run throughout it. Now, this helps you to see the character and the nature of God and his plans and his purpose for creation, for you and me. There are loads of tools to help with this. You can easily find Bible reading plans to help you navigate your way through, suggesting what books to read and in which order, and with some other helpful information to help and perhaps answer any questions that you might have. We recommend using YouVersion. It's a great app that you can have on your phone to keep the Bible with you wherever you are. They've got some great Bible reading plans that you can follow along with. Another great resource is the Bible Project. Just Google it. You can watch a whole bunch of videos on the various books of the Bible, giving you an overview of what that book is actually about. So that's Bible study. The second way we need to read the Bible is devotion. I'd encourage you to do this as often as possible. If not daily, then at least a few times a week. The challenge with Bible study, with reading through the Bible, is that we can focus on getting through it. Our goal is quantity. The more we read, the better. Now that's okay, but it's not why we have the Bible. Our goal isn't to get through it, rather to allow it to get through us. A lecturer I had at Bible college used to say, we don't study the Bible studies us. His point was that we need to allow the contents to filter through our lives, to show through what we think and say and do. A key way we can begin to do this is to focus not on big chunks of the Bible, rather a verse or two. Perhaps pick something that stands out to you and chew it over. Think about it and what it means. And as you do, ask God to speak to you. Now, this isn't a magic formula to follow. It takes time and devotion to develop this skill and habit. But the more you do it, the more you will sense God prodding or nudging you. Now, if you're reading through the books of the Bible, then you can look out for those verses that stand out. There are also tons of devotional reading plans that cover a whole myriad of topics. Just search on YouVersion to find something that fits. When you sit down to read the Bible, it's good to prepare yourself. Perhaps have a short time of silence, a couple of minutes or two, and allow it to clear your head of any distractions. And as you sit, ask God to speak to you, to use the words that you're about to read to speak into the depths of your soul. Then read, whether it's a big chunk or just a few verses. And as you read, ask yourself these two questions. Firstly, what do these words mean in their original context? That's about understanding who wrote them, who they were writing to, and why they were writing. That's the payoff that comes from Bible study. The more we do it, the more we're able to have this bigger picture view of the Bible. The next question is, what are they saying to me today? What's the takeaway? What is this asking me to do or stop doing? How is it asking me to behave or believe or feel? Pray as you ask that question. Now, just because something's in the Bible doesn't mean that this is what God is saying to us today. People sometimes say that the Bible is an instruction manual for life. It isn't. That's not a helpful way to think of the Bible. Actually, lots of the stuff isn't there for us to go and do likewise. It's there to show us what not to do, to learn from their mistakes. But we also need to remember that the original authors of each verse of Scripture were writing in a specific culture and context, a culture and context that isn't ours. Now, having said that, I do strongly believe that the primary way God speaks to us today is through the Bible, that He uses it to encourage us, to equip and challenge us. That's why praying when we read it is so important. We want to put ourselves in a posture that allows us to receive from God and to respond accordingly. Now, one final thought on how we should read the Bible. Each of these texts were originally written with community in mind. They were written for people in the plural sense. Communities would gather to hear them being read. They would interpret them and act on them together in community. Do this. Don't read it alone, or don't only read it alone. Find someone or a bunch of someones to read the Bible with you. Follow the same plans and talk about it. Ask questions and discover what God is saying to you together. You see, the Bible is a gift to help us discover who God is, and in doing so, who we are. Start with Jesus and stay focused on Him in whatever you read. Interpret every verse through the lens of Jesus.